John is in a hospital, unconscious due to an accident. My mother-in-law implored me, tears streaming down her face. While I watched her, my heart remained calm. I see. Then, please leave, I said. What? After my mother-in-law stared at my face, she erupted in anger while her cheeks were turning red. Considering her emotions, I thought it was a natural reaction. However, I had a reason why I couldn't simply worry about him, even when I heard that my husband had an accident and was unconscious. I am Mary Sterling, a 28-year-old housewife. My husband, John, who is 2 years older than me, took over his father's small company. However, since my mother-in-law still held the position of CEO and was running the company, my husband was still in training. I'd been troubled by my husband's repeated affairs with other women for a year since we got married. Right from the start of our marriage, there were signs of other women. Still, it seemed like he only went out for meals and drives with them. While I was certain that he was meeting these women alone, there was no concrete evidence suggesting a deeper involvement. Was he just good at not leaving any evidence behind, or was he genuinely enjoying fleeting romances? Personally, I thought that meeting women alone was enough to consider it infidelity, but it wasn't necessarily an affair. I couldn't obtain conclusive evidence of adultery. Unable to tolerate his frequent outings with other women, I had even suggested divorce before. If you want to spend time with other women that badly, why don't you become single again? I had said. Come on, I just meet them for work. I didn't think you were that possessive, John responded. Are you saying that I'm being narrow-minded? I asked. Are you not? Business meetings are part of the job. It's just that the person I work with is a woman, and I don't have any hidden intentions. Well, since you had only worked in a company for about 5 years, maybe you wouldn't understand, he remarked. Saying this, my husband chuckled heartily. In his smile, I could sense his true feeling. I've given you the title of a president's wife, even though you have little to no experience in the business world. So, you should just laugh and forgive my infidelity. That's why I was determined to gather evidence and ask for divorce. After conducting some research, I found that even if I suspected infidelity and confronted him, it wouldn't often be accepted as evidence of an affair. Additionally, tampering with my husband's phone to investigate could lead to legal issues and would not be admissible as evidence. I pondered over how to handle this situation. One day, perhaps my husband had let his guard down. Since I hadn't been able to obtain evidence, he finally let something slip. I'll be going on a business trip to Toronto for 3 days starting next Friday. Can you take out the suitcase for me? He said. Okay. Do you want me to pack the things you usually take in the suitcase? No, I have to take some confidential documents as well, so I'll pack myself. Then, can I make a reservation at the hotel you always stay in Toronto? I'll arrange the accommodation myself too, so don't worry about it. While he had gone on business trips a few times since we got married, he always had me prepare everything. I couldn't help but feel a slight sense of unease. There seems to be something fishy here. With that thought in mind, I decided to check my home computer. As expected, the search history had been cleared as usual, but I found a reservation for a motel on a booking website. However, the destination was not Toronto, and it was a well-known tourist spot in the opposite direction. Moreover, the reservation was for 2 adults. I couldn't say for sure, but I supposed it meant he needed to disguise where he was going. Finally, I had a lead. I decided to hire a detective to tail my husband. I wanted concrete evidence of an affair, not just casual interactions with the other woman, but proof of infidelity, such as sharing the same room with her. Hiring a professional detective was the best solution for that. It was the day that my husband went on a business trip. No, a vacation. The detective was supposed to follow my husband from the moment he left the house. That evening, I received the detective's Scheduled update. It included reports of my husband sharing a room with the woman, and photographs of them hugging, in the car and at tourist attractions. It was something I had expected, but it still came as a shock. I had thought that I would feel much better when I obtained the evidence, but maybe I still had some feelings left for my husband. That night, I couldn't sleep, and spent all night staring at the sky. The following evening, I received a call from the detective agency I had hired. It was earlier than the scheduled update. I felt an uneasiness wash over me. My bad premonition had become reality. They told me that my husband and the woman had been involved in an accident during their trip and urgently transported to a hospital, with both of them unconscious. Ironically, it was thanks to the detective I had hired that an ambulance was called promptly. The detectives, who had become the witnesses of the accident, were now being questioned by the police, and they couldn't continue the investigation. "We can arrange for a substitute detective. What would you like us to do?" they asked. "I don't need you to tail him anymore. I'd like to change the request to investigating the woman's background," I replied. "Understood. Thank you." As soon as I hung up the phone with the detective agency, it rang again. This time, it was from the hospital. "Are you a family member of Mr. John Sterling?" "Actually, my husband had an accident, didn't he?" I interrupted. "What?" "Yes, that's correct." "Has the police contacted you?" "Well, something like that." I was not shocked, because the detective had already told me about the accident. The hospital staff must have found my calm reaction somewhat unusual. "It's quite far, but could you please come to the hospital as soon as possible?" "Yes, it's quite a distance. It's going to be tough," I replied evasively. She probably found my response perplexing. After she told me, "Please, we're counting on you," she hung up the phone. I also hadn't gotten enough sleep, so my mind was foggy. Even though she had said that she was counting on me, my body didn't move. Since I'm still his wife, I guess I'll have to do the procedures, sign the consent forms for the surgeries, etc. But I just didn't feel like rushing to the hospital for someone who had betrayed me. While I pondered what to do, the intercom rang. When I checked the camera, I saw my mother-in-law standing outside. "Camilla. Mary, you're here, aren't you? Could you open the door?" "Sure." I opened the door, and as soon as she entered, my mother-in-law tearfully implored me, "Mary, is it true that John is unconscious due to an accident? The hospital staff contacted me as well, because you were acting strange when they called you." It seems so," I replied. "Mary, are you okay? You might be in shock from this sudden news, but you have to stay strong." "I'm fine," I said. "First, let's head to the hospital together. Are you ready to go?" I said to her as she was wiping away her tears. "I'm sorry, but please leave." "What?" she exclaimed. "I'm not going to the hospital." "What are you talking about?" "Stop talking nonsense." My mother-in-law, furious, shook my shoulder. It is no wonder that she acted that way, because her son was taken to the hospital unconscious, yet his wife did not even show any sign of concern. "Yesterday, John told me he was going on a business trip to Toronto." "To Toronto? For a business trip?" "But the place where he was in an accident was, yes. It's a completely different tourist destination, isn't it? You must know that there was no such business trip, right?" "Well, yes," my mother-in-law replied. "Did you know that when the accident occurred, he was with a woman?" "What?" she exclaimed. "That woman is John's mistress. I'm almost certain of this based on the investigation conducted by the detective I hired. We are currently looking into her background And we should have more information soon. John, having an affair? My mother-in-law shuddered as she listened to my words. I wondered how she felt. While my husband was just a betrayer from my perspective, he was her beloved son. She was likely going to defend him. I waited for her to speak. However, in the next moment, she started apologizing me. Mary, I'm so sorry for causing you such pain. Camilla, please stop. No, my apology is not nearly enough. My son has done something unforgivable. It's our fault, John and me. I don't want you to apologize to me like this. Please, you don't have to do this. My mother-in-law continued. Would you please let me handle this matter? I promise I won't let anything go wrong. What? Please. Okay. I'll leave it to you. Thank you. With that, she got into the same taxi that she had taken earlier to come here. About 3 hours have passed. I received a call from her. John has regained consciousness. They'll run some tests just to be sure, but his injuries don't seem too serious. I'll bring him back the day after tomorrow. I understand. When are you expecting to receive the detective's report? I checked a moment ago, and they said it would take about 5 days. I see, then we might get home before that. I'll keep the promise not to let anything go wrong, so don't worry. My mother-in-law emphasized it again, before ending the call. 2 days later, I received a message from my mother-in-law, informing me that she had brought my husband back. The report from the detective agency did not arrive in time, because of changes and additions to the request. I was worried that my husband might find a way to get away with it, but my mother-in-law suggested that we wait until the report was completed, before having a discussion. Mary, please take a proper rest until then. From this point on, it's all about your stamina and determination. But, why? Do you mean why I am on your side? Because I don't like something that is not fair. Can you accept that for now? But John is your child. He's my child, which is precisely why I can't tolerate what he's done. My mother-in-law's gentle yet resolute words made me consider placing my trust in her. 1 week after the accident, I received the report from the detective agency. The meeting was held in the company's conference room, as per my mother-in-law's suggestion. She wore an unusually stern expression, and the members of the company's board of directors occupied the upper seats. My husband sat at the lower end, looking awkward. Next to him, the woman in the photograph, taken by the detective, was looking down with a pale face. Though she had scars on her face, she was a beautiful woman. They both appeared to be in good health, despite the accident. If either of them had been wearing bandages, I might have shown some leniency. I was thinking about such things in a carefree way. Mary, please take a seat over here. I sat in the chair as my mother-in-law told me to. There was another, unfamiliar man sitting there. This is Mr. Brown. He's Ava's husband. She introduced. Ava Brown. That was the name of the woman the detective had investigated. I remembered that the report stated that she was also a married woman, so I talked to Mr. Brown. I'm John's wife. I'm sore. No, I should be the one to apologize. Mr. Brown interrupted. We will record the conversation here. John, tell the truth. My mother-in-law sternly commanded, causing my husband to tremble with fear. Where should I start? Start from the beginning. Yes. While he occasionally stumbled over his words, my husband told everything about his relationship with Ava. He met her while they were still in school, and started dating. Although they broke up once, they rekindled their romance at a school reunion. However, since Ava was already married, my husband decided to get married to me, just to make her jealous. And just as my husband had planned, she became jealous, and their love apparently grew. My presence must have been a catalyst for them or fuel to keep the flames of their relationship burning. It is ridiculous. In order to cover up his relationship with Ava, and to further incite her jealousy, my husband probably met with various women. He was amused that I had been so foolish as not to be able to find out about Ava, his true love, and thought it would be okay to go on a trip for a few days. However, it was their carelessness during this trip that allowed me to obtain solid evidence. And if there truly was divine retribution, the accident during their trip was the cause of everything coming to light. When my husband finished speaking, my mother-in-law exclaimed with an exasperated expression, "You only inherited negative qualities from your father." She glared at my husband and Ava. "So you admit to the affair?" "Yes." "Very well. Your treatment at the company will be discussed and determined at a board meeting, and you will be notified accordingly." "What? Why is this such a big deal?" "It's just an affair. If Mary forgives me, there's no problem, right?" "Why would you think I'd forgive you? Besides, have you forgotten about Mr. Brown?" "Well, that. I have no intention of forgiving you either. I wish I could just tell you to discuss the matter between each couple. But from here on, I'll speak as John's mother." "Mom, you are on my side, right?" "Shut up. No one will be on your side. That's Mary, Mr. Brown, I have also suffered due to my husband's infidelity. I'm familiar with the procedures related to this kind of thing. Let's pursue this without mercy and be thorough." My husband assumed that I wouldn't ask for divorce, since I was a homemaker. However, I had already started working from home, preparing for the divorce. When I told him that I was earning a decent income, he collapsed to his knees in shock. Thanks to the detective's report and my mother-in-law's support, Mr. Brown and I received what we could from my husband and Ava, and the divorce was finalized. My husband was removed from his position as president by the board of directors, and my mother-in-law cut ties with him. By now, he's probably working somewhere else, while people talking behind his back. Ava, too, incurred a significant debt from the alimony payments to us. I heard that she couldn't even stay at her parents' home after the divorce, and she is paying off her debt with a live-in job. My mother-in-law, on the other hand, has been actively thriving, even more so than before, holding the position of president and CEO after my husband had left the company. It's been a few years since we got divorced, but every time I see her, she appears younger. Seeing her like that, I'm determined to keep pushing myself so I can keep up with her.